Hello and welcome to a slightly different video today. As we're running a bit low on content, my FIFA video should still be coming out on Friday. I thought I'd indulge myself in another gaming hobby of mine, which is Overwatch, and specifically Overwatch League, which is starting up soon. So what I was thinking of doing is splitting the regions into the West and the East, or APAC region. We'll do a tier list of how I think the teams are, and then I'll split up, and at the end we'll go through a full power ranking of where I think they'll be, split by region, and then an overall. So this is going to be looking through the West teams and placing them. Now, a bit of background on myself: love playing Overwatch, but I don't get a lot of time to play, so I can't grind my ass off. My rank is unfortunately really low, so therefore I watch this like a casual sports fan would. So I'm not great at football, but I support a football team. Equally, I'm not great at Overwatch, but I love watching Overwatch League. And here should be a screenshot of what I'm at this season. As you can see, I've got a good spread. DPS, I just main Farah, so she's not meta, I get shafted. I go in as an aggressive Rhine, which requires a backup of my team, so hence I'm a silver Rhine, and I'm gold healing because I'm a decent Lucio, and I found that this season actually I carry quite a bit of Zen. Anyways, let's dive in to the teams. Now, Atlanta Reign, so let's have a look at their team. So we'll split it by roles. So they've got Edison, sick DPS, Pelican, who's really good. I think he's coming in from contenders. His Tracer and Genji, I've heard, are amazing, and I've seen the what did I have Atlanta Reign had a, we can go into YouTube and look for Atlanta Reign and see if they've had preseason. Atlanta Reign preseason. So obviously I tried to make this as planned as I could, but hasn't happened. No. So they haven't had any preseasons, but people have been watching VODs of Pelican, and I've watched a couple of highlight reels, and I mean, these results show that he slaps. So they've got good Tracer, Genji, Sombra. They've got Kai, formerly KSP, good hit scan, and they've got Edison. So they've got quite a lot of flexibility here. Can I see any holes in their heroes? No. Edison and Kai cover a lot of the, so they've got double sniper metas they'll cover. They've got the only problem is if you need, for example, Tracer Genji. I don't know if that meta will come around, but if you do need a Tracer Genji or a Sombra Tracer or something like that, you kind of need Pelican to play both. So that might be where they struggle. So DPS line, stunning for Atlanta. Now, support, they've only got one of each, and I'm not going to lie, I've never really been too impressed with Massa. His Lucio is pretty good, but I'm not too sure about his Brigitte. And I'm also, like, Mercy here will come around here and there, but I'm not too stoked on Massa. And they've only got one flex DPS here. I mean, Iris, haven't watched him play that often. Not going to lie, I haven't really seen him. He hasn't done too well here. I mean, he's only playing the Overwatch League last year. Was he the main? Was he the only flex support? Anyways, I think they need better support. And then tank, Gator and Hawk. I mean, they were a tank duo that came into the team together. I think they were. What was their former team? Where is he? Results. So he was previously on Atlanta Academy, and was Hawk with him on Atlanta Academy from what I remember. Yeah, so they both came up from Atlanta Academy. Not going to lie, don't think they were that stunning last year. And so that in mind, with S tier essentially being quite reserved, I'm going to put Atlanta Reign in my high B. We'll see. We'll put them at B for now, and we'll see where they end up. Now, Boston Uprising. Boston Uprising had a great off season in my opinion, relative. So Boston are notorious for being the cheapos who do nothing. They go off, they sign someone on the cheap, and he shows himself to have some skills, a la Jerry, striker, and then they get brought up by a better team, a la San Francisco Shock. And I think Jerry's currently on, I can't remember which team he's on, but we'll come across to it. But anyways, let's see what we've got here. So we've got Color Hex, I'm 37, Soon, and Valentine. So this is a substantial upgrade from what they had last season. Color Hex, I think, is a good DPS. Never really outstanding, but he's quite flexible. Oddly, he's got projectile in Pharah, Echo, and also hit scan in Widowmaker. So I think he can be fed in. I'm 37, pure hit scan, essentially. I mean, most hit scans have a decent tracer, but he's pure hit scan, essentially, for this team. Valentine, who I think is extremely flexible. He's got a lot of projectiles. So if you've got double hit scan, you'd run maybe Color Hex, I'm 37. Even Soon, it has a very good hit scan. And I'm very excited. I love Soon, and like he went far in the. I know it was pre-grand finals. He went quite far in the Widow thing that they were running. He, I think, made it to the finals and only lost to Linksa. And he's not primarily known as an amazing hit scan, but he clearly is. Long-standing veteran, loads of veteran influence. Now Myeonbong, we all know Myeonbong's sick. He's amazing. Despite being on a floundering Boston Uprising last season, I think he did quite well considering. And then you have Faith. I don't know much about Faith, but from what I've seen, and I think it was the Steel Series Invitational that happened recently. Yeah, here we go, Steel Series Invitational. I think he looked okay. He wasn't outstanding, but you don't need to be if you've got Myeonbong on your team. And then we have Fusions, Solid Rhine. Not too impressive anywhere else. I'm Solid Rhine, Solid Orisa. I think if you want his leadership, he's very clever. I think he could almost play the Jake role, which is being made this season. Punk, I think he's a good off tank. And Stam 1, I think he is good. Unfortunately, he was on the Shanghai Dragons and they had Fearless, and I think comparative to Fearless, he was probably not as good as you would have thought. But I would say I'd put Boston with Atlanta, to be honest. Would I put them above or below? I'd say put them with. And then Dallas Fuel. So Dallas Fuel, I've got their jersey. I'm expecting great things this season, but they are a bit of a meme. They've pretty much just picked up what's the team that I'm thinking of that they picked up? Was it there we go, Element Mystic. They've essentially picked up the whole Element Mystic team. So they've got Doha. I think he was a good foil for Decay. He was good at sort of covering what Decay couldn't cover. He's got a lot of projectile in his bag. He's very flexible. I think they'll do well with him. Sparkle, obviously, amazing Genji. I've heard an amazing Doomfist, but I don't think we're ever going to have a Doomfist meta. And he plays a good Junkrat. And it says Tracer there, but I don't think he's that good a Tracer. I think you need Doha to essentially... No, he's not a Tracer player either. And XE, you need him as your hit scan. So that's where I think there's a hole in this team. Support-wise, Fielder played on high ping, played pretty well. Repel and Jexy, I think, are decent. Hanbin is an underrated off-tank. And Fearless is a very good main tank. I think his ball maybe leaves something to be desired. And there are a couple of situations last season where I felt like he was a bit ropey. But Winston, out of this world. So I think their tank line, solid. I think their DPS line has holes in it. I think they have a good support line. So with that in mind, I'm going to put Dallas... Now, I'm going to put Dallas in A tier. I think they've got pre-existing chemistry, decent coaching staff. Now, Houston Outlaws. Okay, let's talk about this. Who's your secondary support? Like, he's underage. He will be of age. He's come from the collegiate scene, Juby. Okay, Crimzo, not great. So you've got a shaky support line. Okay, Piggy and Django. Now I've heard that they scrimmed with San Francisco Shock, and Shock players have given praise to them, but I'm not gonna lie. I think that is, you don't never want to talk badly about people who scrim with you, because it may mean that other teams will be like, well, I don't want to scrim with you anymore, and it's important for scrims. So if I'm reading between the lines, I think their tank line is very weak. So weak support, weak tank line, and then a plethora of DPS. Now Jake, I think, is a player coach. There's been lots of questions about what his role actually will be. I think his role will be to firstly provide a good scrim partner. He's flexible enough to maybe even play things like support in if they need it for scrims. On top of that, very knowledgeable about the game. Mechanics still there or thereabouts, although maybe has dropped off a little bit. KSF is a pretty good hit scan there you've got, but then you've also got Happy, who's also a very good hit scan. Then you've got Dante, best wasting Tracer easily, and then you've got Hydration, who is their main tank actually. Kidding. But so you have Hydration, who, let's hope he hasn't dropped off in his projectiles. So I think you're well covered for DPS. I don't think Houston Outlaws are lacking in their DPS, but what I do think is that they have a very shaky foundation, and that might be where Jake plays in. But unfortunately, because of the reasons I've mentioned, I'm going to have to put them at C at best. They might even drop a bit lower. Now London. London basically just promoted their academy team and added a Blase in. And I watched them in their most recent, what was it that they played? In the Steel Series Invitational. I think they played pretty well. I think that pre-existing chemistry is very important actually. So you have Shax, who is pretty good, from LA Valiant. We'll get onto LA Valiant in the next video, but essentially great hit scan there in Shax. Got Blase, covers most of your projectile. You've got Hybrid, who is your second hit scan for a double hit scan. Decent. Kellex, I'm not sure about. I remember him having an amazing Mercy. I don't think he has that good a Lucio. Maybe I will be proven wrong. We'll have to see. And Ripper, I think, is decent, but not amazing again. And I think they're lacking for an Ana, essentially. And then Hadi, I was quite impressed with in the Steel series, and Morphig as well, I think, is pretty good. Now, this is the player that they're waiting to come on, and they can become active. I think halfway through the season, Sparker becomes active, and he will essentially boost this team quite a bit. So London Spitfire, I'm gonna have to put C tier, and that actually, no, you know what, that means I'm gonna have to put Houston Outlaws. I'm sorry, Houston fans, but you're going in D tier. I can't justify you being the same as London, because I think they have much better chemistry than you. Now, then basically we come on to potential title contenders. Birdring, Mirror, Kevstar. Birdring and Kevstar. Kevstar is amazing. I think he's stepped up massively. Birdring has always been good, but always a bit fluctuant, but I think he's becoming a bit more stable. Then you have Mirror, who's essentially your only projectile player, to be honest. So I think you have a decent DPS line here. Shu, you've managed to steal Shu and Moth. Two-time champion Moth, amazing, stable Lucio, very good Brigitte, decent Mercy. I don't think Ana and Baptiste will be what he plays. That will be left to this guy. And I think with that in mind, and then Space, equally amazing off-tank. Muse, they won the Steel Series Invitational. I know it was sort of just pre-season and playing, and you shouldn't take that fully into account, but equally, I do think you can put some stock that they've already got quite good chemistry considering. I will put them... Now, bear in mind, this is a tier list specifically for the West, right? And so, in the context of the rest of the East teams, which I've put here, which we'll see in the next video, in that context, we may see some of these teams move up or down depending, because we're basically only talking about the West here. We're not talking about the East, and it would be very harsh of me to put anyone into F tier, except you're going to see that next. I mean, it's not a secret. I think the LA Valiant will be F tier, but we'll come on to that. Florida Mayhem didn't really do much. I think they let go of Fate, went to Shanghai Dragons, and apart from that, yeah, this is a meme, and they've lost Sayapea. DPS BQB is a great hit scan. Yaki, a great tracer. I think Yaki lacks a bit in his Genji, but I think he's stable. Checkmate, I haven't seen much of, but if he is what people are playing him up to be, I think they'll be quite decent. Gangnam Jin was underrated, and Slime is equally, I think, underrated. I think they have a solid support line, a good DPS line, and a very good off tank. But this is where I'm questioning it. OGE has always underachieved based on his potential. Now, whether it's sort of mental health issues, which I can totally understand, but that doesn't decrease the fact that if they do affect you, that means that it affects you. It means your gameplay will be fluctuant. Perhaps he'll be stable here, but you are relying on OGE, and I don't remember him having... See, he doesn't have a ball. Who's your ball player in this game, in this meta? Like, I think it's a very big hole that Florida Mayhem might have here. So I'm gonna put Florida Mayhem... I think I'm gonna have to put them in C tier. I don't see them like being that high. Then we have Paris Eternal. Now, EU contenders, yes. Suna, not that impressive. Only God, decent. Naga, haven't heard a lot of, but decent EU contenders player. Then you have veteran Neptuno and Khan, who looked impressive in what was their most recent thing that they played, the Steel Series It's all Steel Series Invitationals. The other ones are the scrims, I think. But I think having let go of, like, you could have kept a couple of these, like Nico, Ben Best. Why didn't you? What we could have kept maybe Ben Best. I think unless it was a sort of, you know, budget issue. Obviously, we're going to lose these players, fine, but I feel like you could really do with an extra tank. Elivote's decent, Dan is unproven, and yeah, I just feel like they've obviously... I think this is a big downgrade. I think it's a build season. See what you get from these players. But if I'm going to be brutally honest, I think they're out here with Houston Outlaws, to be honest. Then San Francisco Shock. What more needs to be said? Now, I do think they've downgraded, actually. I mean, regardless of what everyone else says, I think they've downgraded. Now, you've obviously got Striker, amazing Tracer. You've got Nero, amazing Projectile. Deece and Glister, which is a sick pickup. But you lost Ans, and I don't think Glister can live up to Ans. Then you have Violet and Twilight and FD God as your main support. Now, I don't think any of them have a good Mercy, which, again, don't think it's that important. I don't think FD God's Brigitte is that impressive. He obviously does have that sick Lucio. Violet and Twilight, I quite honestly think you should have just gotten rid of one of them and brought in perhaps an extra main tank. But anyways, Smurf and Super, amazing, and Chohobin. So you've got a solid tank line. You've got a solid main support line, depending on it, unless we get a like Mercy meta, and then we'll see. Then I think I don't think San Francisco Shock ever really needed that sick of a DPS line, but I think they've chipped away at it so much that to be honest, it's their coaching staff, I think, that will carry them, but you can't really put them anywhere except S tier, to be honest. Then Toronto Defiant, essentially the like backup Philly Fusion, who've now left and gone over to the East. But anyways, DPS line, Logix, Hisu, Nast. I think that's quite weak. Hisu, decent, to be honest. I think his hit scan is not as good as you'd think. I think he has a good Sombra. We'll see. I think he was found out a little bit. So Logix will be your hit scan then, to be honest. And then Nast, I haven't seen enough of him to make a solid judgment. But you have cover for everything, fine. Aztac, Ansun J, and Lastro. I think Lastro is underrated. I think, again, the team he was on has sort of blown apart. Means that you had someone available. I would say he's a pretty good Zen flex support. Ansun J, middling, but we'll see. We'll see. Then again, Aztac, don't really know much about him. But if he's gotten decent results in Contender's career, I'm prepared to take a bet on him. So you've got a decent support line, but untested. And then Beast, Sado, and Michelle, I think that's Sado and Michelle especially. I think, is Beast going to be your off tank? No. Who's your off tank then? Michelle? Okay, so Michelle's your off tank from Soul Dynasty. I think you have Michelle's going to be tested this season. I think it's a very, very tough role to be playing. But I would say that Defiant has upgraded quite substantially, and I would put them here with Boston, Rain, and Defiant. I think that's a good lineup. Then Vancouver Titans. Now, we all remember when they picked up Runaway, but I don't know what they're doing here. They've got like a bare bones team. I don't even really want to. I don't know anything about most of these players. FRD, Winner. How do you pronounce that? Don't know. I think it's just FRD, isn't he? Yeah. As your off tank, never really been that impressed. Shredlock as your main tank, again, not that impressed. Rolf never impressed me when I watched him in the World Cup. Like Team Canada, I think their most recent World Cup, which is obviously unfair, but I think it showed massive holes. And Fire, Lynx is perhaps past it. Dalton, I've never seen us being able to stand there with the top. I think I'm going to have to unfortunately put the Titans in E. Then Washington Justice. Now I bought my girl a Washington Justice jersey, and honestly, I think this team is stacked. Chuba, sick Farah, sick Genji. Decay can carry the team by himself. Jerry, this is where Jerry came to. Your second hit scan and assassin. Like, that is a stacked DPS line. Mag, amazing off tank. I've watched a couple of his VODs, and I've watched him in I think Washington Justice did an open scrim, I think, with Soul, right? Justice. And I think it's this change in mentality as well that I heard. Yeah, this open scrim. It was this change in mentality where they wanted to do things that the Shock and Shanghai do, which is they're down a player, it's 5v6, but they're confident enough to still go in. And they have Rhea, Fury, amazing. This is where they're a little bit like, I think they're a bit weak. If they could have picked up Twilight or Violet from San Francisco Shock, or if they do it next season and keep most of this roster, I'm thinking specifically if they keep Mag, Fury, they get they perhaps keep Bebe but have Violet or Twilight, and this DPS line, I think they might rival Shock, and to be honest, I'm gonna put them up there. Well, they all have to be challengers. The problem is you have Shock in this, and I don't think anyone can be proven. Anyways, so that's my ranking, and then let's go into here where we'll rank them. So obviously San Francisco Shock top. I think Justice have to be second. They have to be your second best team. Then Glads or Dallas. I think I'll go Glads and Dallas. Nothing amazing there. Then it's this mid-table. Like, I think Vancouver is going to be bottom. I think Paris is going to be just above them. Do I think Houston or Paris? I think with the ping issues, I think Houston will be above them. Then I think Defiant. Defiant, Uprising, Spitfire, Mayhem that low though? No. And Rise Reign so high. I think Defiant, Mayhem, Reign, Uprising, London, Spitfire. I think that's going to be my ranking for the Western region. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time in the next episode where we go through the APAC region. And then I think we'll go through the APAC. Actually, I was supposed to finish it there, but anyways, I think we'll go through the APAC region. We'll do a similar thing, tier list them, and then we'll do an overall ranking or an overall tier list with the APAC teams included.